While I was fighting stage 3 breast cancer and enduring chemotherapy that left me barely conscious, my husband David systematically drained our joint accounts and liquidated our investment portfolio, transferring over $340,000 to offshore accounts he had established with his business partner. "She probably won't survive this round of treatment anyway," he told his accomplice while moving the final wire transfer to the Cayman Islands. What David never knew was that my estranged Aunt Margaret had left me a trust fund worth $28 million that would activate upon my recovery, and I had spent 12 years as a forensic accountant specializing in financial fraud before I ever met him. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Standing in her home office at dawn on what would prove to be her final morning of normal life, Rebecca reviewed case files from her most recent investigation involving a multinational healthcare fraud network that had stolen over $15 million from Medicare programs across 7 states. The systematic approach that characterized her investigative methodology reflected years of training in advanced forensic accounting techniques, criminal psychology, and the sophisticated analytical methods that enabled her to identify patterns invisible to conventional accounting reviews. Rebecca's journey to this level of professional expertise had been constructed through deliberate strategic decisions about education, specialization, and career development that positioned her at the intersection of accounting, law enforcement, and behavioral analysis. Her undergraduate degree in accounting from the University of Chicago provided the technical foundation, while her master's degree in forensic accounting from Georgetown University established her credibility within the specialized community of financial crime investigators. Her doctoral dissertation on psychological patterns in white-collar crime had been published in 3 academic journals and was frequently cited by other researchers studying criminal behavior in financial contexts. The transition from traditional accounting practice to federal law enforcement had occurred early in her career, when Rebecca recognized that her analytical capabilities and attention to detail were particularly well-suited to the complex challenges of investigating sophisticated financial crimes. The Federal Bureau of Investigation's recruitment process for forensic accountants involved extensive psychological evaluation, comprehensive background investigation, and rigorous testing of technical competencies that ensured only candidates with exceptional capabilities and unquestioned integrity were accepted into the specialized financial crimes units. Rebecca's professional reputation within the law enforcement community had been built through consistent demonstration of technical excellence, ethical integrity, and the intellectual rigor that distinguished successful financial crime investigators from conventional accountants who lacked the specialized training necessary for federal law enforcement responsibilities. Her colleagues respected her judgment and frequently sought her consultation on complex cases that required expertise in advanced analytical techniques and understanding of criminal psychology in financial contexts. The home office environment that Rebecca had created reflected her commitment to maintaining professional standards even when working outside the formal structure of federal facilities. Advanced computer systems with specialized forensic software enabled her to conduct detailed analysis of financial transactions and corporate structures. Secure communication systems maintained confidentiality for sensitive case materials, while enabling collaboration with other investigators across multiple agencies and jurisdictions. Current investigations represented the culmination of years of skill development applied to increasingly sophisticated criminal enterprises that exploited weaknesses in financial regulatory systems and international cooperation frameworks. The healthcare fraud network that Rebecca was currently investigating involved complex corporate structures spanning multiple countries, sophisticated money laundering techniques, and coordination among criminal organizations with expertise in different aspects of financial crimes. Each case that Rebecca handled demonstrated her systematic approach to financial investigation that began with comprehensive analysis of available evidence, continued through methodical development of investigative theories based on behavioral patterns, and financial anomalies, and concluded with presentation of findings in formats accessible to prosecutors and judicial audiences who lacked specialized technical background in forensic accounting. The documentation practices that characterized Rebecca's investigative work exceeded federal standards for evidence preservation and case management through systematic organization of materials, comprehensive backup procedures, and detailed annotation of analytical methodologies that ensured her findings could be verified by other investigators and would withstand challenges during legal proceedings. Professional relationships within the law enforcement community provided Rebecca with access to specialized resources and expertise that enabled investigation of complex criminal enterprises requiring coordination across multiple agencies and jurisdictions. Her reputation for thoroughness and reliability had created a network of colleagues who were willing to provide assistance and share information that supported comprehensive investigation of sophisticated financial crimes. The personal satisfaction that Rebecca derived from her professional work extended beyond intellectual challenge and career advancement to include meaningful contribution to protecting society from sophisticated criminal enterprises that exploited trust-based relationships and institutional weaknesses for personal enrichment at the expense of vulnerable victims. Rebecca's approach to work-life balance involved careful separation between professional responsibilities and personal relationships, while maintaining the high standards for integrity and excellence that characterized all aspects of her life. The same attention to detail and systematic thinking that made her successful as a federal investigator informed her personal decision-making and relationship management. The morning routine that began each workday included comprehensive review of ongoing investigations, communication with other investigators and prosecutors about case developments, and strategic planning for advancing complex investigations that required coordination of resources across multiple agencies and extended time periods. Professional development activities involved continuous education about emerging financial crimes techniques, advanced analytical methodologies, and changes in regulatory frameworks that affected investigation and prosecution of sophisticated criminal enterprises. Rebecca regularly attended specialized training programs and professional conferences that maintained her expertise at the cutting edge of financial crimes investigation. The commitment to professional excellence that characterized Rebecca's career reflected fundamental values about justice, integrity, and the importance of protecting society from sophisticated criminal enterprises that exploited institutional weaknesses and violated the trust that enabled legitimate business activities and financial transactions. As morning sunlight filled her home office through carefully positioned windows that maximized natural lighting while maintaining privacy for sensitive case materials, Rebecca completed her final review of the healthcare fraud investigation that would soon result in federal indictments against 17 defendants across multiple jurisdictions. The systematic approach to professional excellence that had distinguished Rebecca's career would soon be tested in ways she could never have anticipated, as personal crisis revealed the importance of the analytical skills and professional networks that she had developed through years of dedicated service to federal law enforcement. The foundation of expertise and professional relationships that Rebecca had built through systematic commitment to excellence would become essential resources for surviving and ultimately triumphing over systematic betrayal by the person she trusted most completely in her personal life. Before we continue with Rebecca's remarkable story of resilience and strategic thinking, take a moment to let us know in the comments what profession you think would be most helpful in detecting betrayal. And remember to subscribe because Part 2 will reveal how Rebecca met the man who would become both her greatest love and her most dangerous enemy. 3 years before the cancer diagnosis that would transform her life forever, Rebecca Martinez attended a charity fundraiser for children's cancer research at the prestigious Meridian Hotel in downtown Seattle. The event attracted prominent professionals from across the Pacific Northwest's business and medical communities, creating networking opportunities for individuals committed to supporting pediatric oncology research through both financial contributions and professional expertise. David Wellington approached Rebecca during the silent auction portion of the evening, commenting on her bid for a weekend retreat package to the San Juan Islands. His opening conversation revealed sophisticated understanding of the region's natural beauty and recreational opportunities, combined with professional knowledge about investment strategies for vacation property that suggested both personal experience and business expertise in real estate development. The initial attraction between Rebecca and David emerged from apparent intellectual compatibility and shared values about professional excellence, community service, and long-term thinking, rather than immediate gratification. David's background, as managing partner of Wellington Development Group, provided credibility and social status that complemented Rebecca's federal law enforcement career, while suggesting potential for meaningful partnership between individuals with complementary expertise and similar commitment to ethical standards. David's professional presentation that evening reflected careful attention to personal grooming, sophisticated clothing choices, and confident social interaction that demonstrated comfort in high-status social environments. His knowledge of current events, cultural topics, and business development suggested broad education and continuing intellectual engagement with complex issues beyond his immediate professional responsibilities. The conversation that developed between Rebecca and David during the charity event revealed apparent alignment on fundamental values, including commitment to professional integrity, importance of contributing to community welfare, and preference for long-term relationship building rather than casual social interaction. Personal compatibility seemed to support professional respect and intellectual attraction. David's knowledge about Rebecca's work with the Federal Bureau of Investigation demonstrated understanding of law enforcement challenges and respect for the public service mission that motivated her career choices. His questions about financial crime investigation revealed genuine interest rather than casual curiosity, suggesting appreciation for the intellectual complexity and social importance of her professional responsibilities. The charity fundraiser environment provided an ideal setting for developing initial personal connection based on shared commitment to meaningful causes and professional achievement rather than superficial social compatibility. Both Rebecca and David had made substantial financial contributions to the Pediatric Cancer Research Program, demonstrating authentic commitment to supporting medical advancement and helping children facing life-threatening illnesses. Professional background information that David shared during their initial conversation included his role in developing affordable housing projects throughout the Pacific Northwest, his commitment to sustainable construction practices, and his involvement in community organizations focused on economic development and environmental protection. This combination of business success and community engagement aligned with Rebecca's values about using professional capabilities for broader social benefit. The personal chemistry that developed during their first meeting reflected genuine mutual attraction based on intellectual compatibility, shared values, and professional respect rather than superficial physical attraction or social convenience. Both individuals appeared to be seeking meaningful partnership with someone who shared their commitment to excellence and ethical standards. David's approach to relationship development demonstrated patience and genuine interest in understanding Rebecca's personality, professional interests, and personal goals rather than pursuing immediate physical intimacy or casual dating arrangements. His communication style suggested emotional maturity and relationship experience that indicated serious intentions about potential long-term partnership. The professional networks that David described included relationships with prominent business leaders, community organizations, and charitable foundations that suggested legitimate business success and genuine community involvement, rather than fabricated credentials or exaggerated achievements designed to impress potential romantic partners. Financial discussions during early relationship development revealed David's apparent commitment to transparency about business operations, investment strategies, and long-term financial planning that supported his claims about professional success and ethical business practices. His knowledge of financial markets and investment principles complemented Rebecca's expertise in financial investigation, while suggesting potential for productive collaboration in personal financial management. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. The geographical compatibility between Rebecca's federal law enforcement responsibilities in Seattle and David's business operations throughout the Pacific Northwest eliminated potential conflicts about career locations while creating opportunities for mutual support of professional advancement and business development activities. Personal interests and recreational preferences that David described included outdoor activities, cultural events, and travel destinations that aligned with Rebecca's lifestyle choices and suggested potential for shared experiences and mutual enjoyment of leisure activities outside their demanding professional responsibilities. The relationship development process that began with their meeting at the charity fundraiser proceeded gradually through multiple social interactions that allowed both individuals to evaluate compatibility and develop trust before making commitments about exclusive dating or potential long-term partnership arrangements. Professional colleagues and friends who met David during the early stages of his relationship with Rebecca provided positive feedback about his apparent character, professional competence, and genuine affection for Rebecca that supported her, growing confidence in the relationship's potential for meaningful long-term partnership. The systematic approach to relationship evaluation that Rebecca applied reflected the same careful analytical thinking that characterized her professional work, including assessment of consistency between stated values and observed behavior, evaluation of compatibility across multiple dimensions, and consideration of long-term potential rather than immediate emotional gratification. David's demonstrated respect for Rebecca's professional responsibilities and demanding schedule suggested understanding of law enforcement careers and willingness to accommodate the irregular hours and confidentiality requirements that characterized federal investigations of complex financial crimes. The foundation of trust and mutual respect that developed during the first year of their relationship created confidence about potential for marriage and shared life goals based on authentic compatibility rather than superficial attraction or social convenience that might not withstand the pressures of long-term partnership. As their relationship progressed toward serious commitment, both Rebecca and David expressed satisfaction with the intellectual partnership, emotional compatibility, and shared vision for future goals that suggested potential for successful marriage, based on mutual respect and genuine affection rather than dependency or convenience. The proposal that David eventually made to Rebecca occurred during a weekend retreat to the San Juan Islands, returning to the location they had discussed during their first meeting at the charity fundraiser, creating symbolic connection between their initial attraction and their commitment to permanent partnership. Wedding planning reflected both individuals' preference for meaningful ceremony over elaborate display, resulting in an elegant but modest celebration that focused on commitment to shared values and long-term partnership, rather than social status or expensive demonstration of financial resources. The marriage that Rebecca and David established appeared to represent the ideal partnership between two successful professionals who shared fundamental values about integrity, excellence, and mutual support for individual career advancement and personal growth within the context of committed relationship and shared life goals. The trust and partnership that Rebecca believed she had found with David would soon be tested by circumstances that revealed fundamental differences in their understanding of marriage, loyalty, and ethical responsibility during periods of vulnerability and crisis that demand genuine partnership rather than opportunistic exploitation. The most sophisticated deceptions are built upon foundations of genuine compatibility and authentic emotional connection, creating relationships that feel completely natural while serving carefully calculated purposes that remain hidden until circumstances provide optimal opportunities for exploitation. David Wellington possessed an intuitive understanding of relationship psychology that enabled him to construct partnerships based on strategic analysis of individual vulnerabilities and professional capabilities rather than authentic affection or shared values. The courtship period that followed Rebecca and David's initial meeting demonstrated his exceptional ability to present himself as the ideal partner through careful observation of her preferences, professional interests, and personal values. His apparent understanding of federal law enforcement challenges reflected research rather than natural empathy, while his knowledge of financial crime investigation techniques suggested strategic preparation rather than casual intellectual curiosity about her professional responsibilities. David's business operations provided legitimate cover for sophisticated financial activities that included international transactions, complex corporate structures, and relationships with offshore banking institutions that would later prove essential for concealing stolen assets. Wellington Development Group maintained offices in Seattle, Vancouver, and Grand Cayman, creating business justification for regular international travel and financial arrangements that appeared routine within the context of legitimate real estate development. The company's portfolio included affordable housing projects that generated positive media coverage and community recognition, while providing access to complex financing arrangements involving multiple jurisdictions and regulatory frameworks. These legitimate business activities created perfect camouflage for sophisticated financial planning that would enable rapid asset transfers and international relocation when circumstances provided appropriate opportunities. Professional relationships that David had cultivated within Seattle's business community included investment advisors, international banking specialists, and legal professionals who provided services that appeared routine for successful real estate development while creating infrastructure for sophisticated financial crimes. His reputation for prompt payment and professional competence ensured continued cooperation from service providers who had no reason to question his legitimate business needs. The systematic approach to relationship development that David employed with Rebecca involved careful analysis of her professional capabilities, financial resources, and personal vulnerabilities that could be exploited during periods of crisis or incapacitation. His apparent commitment to supporting her career advancement reflected strategic thinking about maximizing her earning potential and professional network access rather than genuine partnership investment. Financial discussions during their relationship progression revealed David's sophisticated understanding of federal employment benefits, law enforcement pension systems, and the investment strategies that Rebecca had developed through years of careful financial planning. His suggestions about joint accounts and investment coordination appeared motivated by partnership efficiency, while actually providing access to assets that he could appropriate during periods of vulnerability. The marriage proposal that David orchestrated included careful timing that coincided with Rebecca's promotion to senior supervisory special agent within the Financial Crimes Division, ensuring that their legal partnership would provide access to her enhanced income and expanded professional benefits. The romantic presentation masked calculated consideration of the optimal timing for establishing legal claims to her assets and professional achievements. Wedding planning revealed David's apparent commitment to fiscal responsibility and shared decision-making while actually establishing patterns of financial control and information management that would later facilitate systematic theft. His insistence on joint financial accounts and consolidated investment strategies appeared motivated by partnership efficiency while creating vulnerability that could be exploited during medical crises. The honeymoon trip to the Cayman Islands provided David with opportunities to establish banking relationships and explore offshore financial services while maintaining the appearance of romantic vacation activities. Business meetings that he described as routine real estate consultations actually involved detailed planning for asset concealment and international money transfer capabilities that would support future theft activities. Early marriage dynamics demonstrated David's exceptional ability to provide emotional support and practical assistance while gathering intelligence about Rebecca's professional activities, financial resources, and personal vulnerabilities that could be exploited when circumstances provided appropriate opportunities. His apparent interest in her work reflected systematic information gathering rather than genuine intellectual curiosity. Professional social events that David attended as Rebecca's spouse provided access to federal law enforcement personnel and detailed knowledge about financial crime investigation techniques that would later inform his approach to concealing theft activities and avoiding detection through sophisticated counter-surveillance and evidence destruction methodologies. The lifestyle that Rebecca and David established together reflected apparent partnership in financial decision-making, while actually providing David with comprehensive knowledge of her spending patterns, investment strategies, and the documentation systems she used for personal financial management. This intelligence would prove essential for systematic appropriation activities. Home office arrangements that David suggested for supporting Rebecca's professional responsibilities included shared computer systems and financial management software that provided him with access to her professional networks, case management systems, and the detailed financial records that would later facilitate identity theft and unauthorized account access during her medical treatment. Investment strategies that David proposed for optimizing their joint financial resources included international diversification and complex corporate structures that appeared motivated by tax efficiency while actually creating mechanisms for rapid asset transfer and offshore concealment when circumstances provided appropriate opportunities for theft. Insurance planning that David initiated during their second year of marriage included comprehensive life insurance policies and disability coverage that demonstrated apparent concern for Rebecca's welfare while actually providing financial incentives for her incapacitation or death through carefully structured beneficiary arrangements and premium payment strategies. Professional development support that David provided for Rebecca's career advancement included financing for specialized training programs and conference attendance that enhanced her value within the federal law enforcement community while increasing the assets available for appropriation and the professional networks that could be exploited for personal advantage. The business expansion activities that David pursued during the early years of their marriage provided legitimate justification for establishing additional corporate entities and international financial relationships while creating complex ownership structures that would complicate asset recovery efforts and legal enforcement activities during future theft operations. Travel arrangements for vacation and business activities included detailed documentation of Rebecca's preferences, health considerations, and the professional contacts that she maintained across multiple jurisdictions, creating intelligence that would later inform medical crisis exploitation and systematic theft of both financial assets and professional relationships. Social network development within Seattle's professional community provided David with access to medical professionals, legal specialists, and financial advisors who would later provide services that appeared routine for managing medical crises, while actually facilitating systematic theft and asset concealment activities during Rebecca's period of vulnerability. The investment property acquisitions that David suggested for portfolio diversification included real estate holdings in multiple jurisdictions that provided additional mechanisms for asset concealment while appearing to represent normal wealth. Building activities for successful professional couples with substantial dual incomes and long-term financial planning capabilities. Professional consulting arrangements that David established with international business development firms provided legitimate cover for extensive overseas travel and financial planning activities that would later support rapid relocation and asset transfer when theft activities required immediate departure from domestic jurisdiction and legal enforcement capabilities. Estate planning activities that David initiated included complex trust structures and international asset protection arrangements that appeared motivated by tax optimization and wealth preservation, while actually creating legal barriers to asset recovery and mechanisms for concealing stolen funds through offshore entities and international banking relationships. The systematic approach to relationship management that David employed throughout the early years of their marriage demonstrated sophisticated understanding of psychological manipulation techniques that created genuine emotional dependency, while gathering intelligence and establishing access that would later enable comprehensive exploitation during periods of medical vulnerability and legal incapacitation. Personal health monitoring that David maintained regarding Rebecca's family medical history and genetic predispositions provided strategic intelligence about potential health crises that could create opportunities for exploitation while enabling advanced planning for medical crisis management and asset appropriation during periods of physical and cognitive impairment. Professional network analysis that David conducted through social media monitoring and professional association activities provided detailed intelligence about Rebecca's colleagues, supervisors, and the institutional relationships that could be exploited for gaining access to federal law enforcement resources and sensitive case information during her incapacitation period. Financial institution relationships that David cultivated through legitimate business activities provided access to specialized banking services and investment management capabilities that would later support sophisticated theft operations while maintaining the appearance of routine business activities and professional financial management for successful dual-career couples. The foundation of trust and apparent partnership that David constructed through years of careful relationship management would soon be tested by circumstances that revealed the calculating nature of his long-term planning and the devastating scope of systematic preparation for exploiting medical vulnerability and professional incapacitation. Insurance claim preparation that David initiated through detailed documentation of Rebecca's professional activities and asset valuations provided strategic intelligence for maximizing financial recovery from potential disability or death benefits, while creating apparent justification for detailed knowledge of her financial resources and professional capabilities. Medical care coordination that David assumed responsibility for managing included relationships with healthcare providers and detailed knowledge of insurance procedures that would later facilitate exploitation of medical crises while maintaining the appearance of devoted spouse providing appropriate support during health challenges and treatment requirements. The professional reputation that David maintained within Seattle's business community provided credibility for future theft activities while ensuring continued cooperation from financial institutions and professional service providers who had no reason to question his legitimate business needs during apparent medical family crises requiring financial management assistance. Technology integration that David implemented for their household financial management included sophisticated monitoring capabilities and backup systems that provided comprehensive access to Rebecca's professional and personal communications, while appearing to represent routine security measures and efficiency improvements for dual-career professional couples. The detection of malignant cells through routine mammography screening represents one of medicine's most profound moments, when statistical probability transforms into personal reality and abstract medical knowledge becomes immediate survival challenge. Dr. Rebecca Martinez received her diagnosis on a Tuesday morning in October, sitting in the sterile consultation room of Seattle Medical Center's oncology department, while Dr. Sarah Chen delivered news that would fundamentally alter every aspect of her carefully constructed life. Stage 3 invasive ductal carcinoma had established itself in Rebecca's left breast with aggressive characteristics that demanded immediate intervention through comprehensive treatment protocols designed to maximize survival prospects while minimizing long-term complications. The tumor's size and cellular characteristics indicated rapid growth patterns that required chemotherapy, surgical intervention, and radiation therapy, administered according to precise schedules that would dominate her life for the following 8 months. Medical oncology protocols for aggressive breast cancer involve systematic destruction of rapidly dividing cells throughout the body, creating profound physical and cognitive impairment that renders patients temporarily incapable of managing complex professional responsibilities or monitoring sophisticated financial arrangements. The treatment regimen that Dr. Chen outlined would begin within 2 weeks and continue through multiple phases that would progressively weaken Rebecca's physical capabilities while impairing her mental acuity through medically necessary chemical intervention. The psychological impact of cancer diagnosis creates vulnerability that extends beyond immediate medical concerns to include fundamental questions about mortality, life priorities, and the reliability of previously stable assumptions about personal invulnerability and professional control. Rebecca's initial response reflected the analytical thinking that characterized her professional approach to crisis management. But emotional processing of existential threat created cognitive disruption that affected decision-making capabilities in ways she had never previously experienced. David's reaction to Rebecca's diagnosis demonstrated the sophisticated emotional manipulation capabilities that he had developed through years of strategic relationship management. His immediate response included appropriate expressions of shock, concern, and commitment to supporting her through treatment challenges, while simultaneously calculating the opportunities that her medical crisis would provide for implementing theft plans that had been prepared through years of systematic relationship exploitation. Treatment planning discussions with medical professionals provided David with detailed intelligence about the timeline and severity of cognitive impairment that Rebecca would experience during chemotherapy administration. The medical team's comprehensive explanation of treatment effects included specific information about periods when patients become incapable of managing financial decisions or monitoring complex business arrangements, creating precise windows of opportunity for systematic asset appropriation. Insurance verification and financial planning for cancer treatment revealed the comprehensive nature of Rebecca's financial resources while providing David with additional intelligence about her professional benefits, disability coverage, and the asset protection strategies that she had implemented through years of careful financial planning. The discussion of treatment costs and insurance coordination created legitimate justification for detailed review of their joint financial arrangements. Professional notification requirements for federal employees facing extended medical leave included comprehensive documentation of Rebecca's condition and treatment timeline that provided David with official verification of her upcoming incapacitation period. The Federal Bureau of Investigation's disability procedures required detailed medical information that confirmed the duration and severity of cognitive impairment that would prevent her professional oversight of personal financial arrangements. The systematic approach to treatment preparation that Rebecca implemented reflected her commitment to maintaining professional standards even during personal crisis. Detailed documentation of ongoing investigations, comprehensive briefing of colleagues about case management requirements, and systematic organization of professional responsibilities demonstrated her continued analytical capabilities while providing David with additional intelligence about her professional networks and institutional relationships. Home modification activities that David initiated for supporting Rebecca's treatment and recovery included technological upgrades and security system enhancements that appeared motivated by medical necessity, while actually providing comprehensive monitoring capabilities and access control that would facilitate theft activities during her incapacitation periods. Financial consolidation strategies that David proposed for simplifying their arrangements during treatment appeared motivated by practical necessity for reducing Rebecca's administrative burden, while actually providing centralized access to assets that could be appropriated systematically during periods when she would be incapable of monitoring account activities or detecting unauthorized transactions. Medical power of attorney documentation that David prepared included comprehensive authority for managing Rebecca's affairs during treatment-related incapacitation, while carefully preserving language that would provide legal justification for financial decisions that appeared to serve her interests while actually facilitating systematic theft of jointly held assets and individually owned investments. Professional consultation arrangements that David established with financial advisors and estate planning attorneys appeared motivated by responsible preparation for medical crisis management while actually providing intelligence about asset protection strategies and legal requirements for systematic appropriation that would appear legitimate during periods of medical incapacitation. The first chemotherapy administration occurred on a Friday morning in November, beginning the systematic destruction of Rebecca's physical capabilities and cognitive function that would create the vulnerability window David had been preparing to exploit through years of strategic relationship management and sophisticated theft planning. The immediate effects of chemical intervention included nausea, fatigue, and cognitive disruption that marked the beginning of her most vulnerable period. Recovery from initial treatment provided temporary improvement in Rebecca's condition while demonstrating the cyclical nature of chemotherapy effects that would create predictable periods of severe impairment, alternating with brief intervals of relative clarity. This pattern provided David with strategic intelligence about optimal timing for implementing theft activities while maintaining the appearance of devoted spouse, providing appropriate medical support. Medical monitoring requirements included regular hospital visits and laboratory testing that created additional opportunities for David to establish relationships with healthcare providers while gathering intelligence about Rebecca's treatment progression and the specific timing of cognitive impairment periods that would provide optimal windows for implementing systematic theft activities without detection. Insurance claim processing for initial treatment costs provided David with detailed knowledge of Rebecca's comprehensive coverage, while creating apparent justification for detailed involvement in financial management activities that would later facilitate unauthorized access to accounts and systematic appropriation of assets during her incapacitation periods. Professional leave coordination with federal supervisors provided David with official documentation of Rebecca's extended absence and the specific limitations on her decision-making capabilities that would create legal justification for financial management activities that appeared necessary for supporting her medical treatment while actually serving his personal enrichment objectives. Family communication management that David assumed responsibility for included systematic information control designed to prevent relatives from obtaining independent verification of Rebecca's condition or discovering inconsistencies in reported activities. His role as primary caregiver provided legitimate justification for limiting access, while gathering intelligence about potential sources of support or interference with planned theft activities. The second chemotherapy cycle produced more severe effects than initial treatment, creating the profound cognitive impairment and physical weakness that marked the beginning of David's systematic implementation of theft activities that had been prepared through years of strategic planning and relationship exploitation. Rebecca's incapacitation provided the vulnerability window that his entire marriage had been designed to create and exploit. Financial institution communications that David initiated during Rebecca's first period of severe impairment included account access updates and signatory modifications that appeared necessary for medical crisis management, while actually providing unauthorized access to assets that could be appropriated systematically without triggering automatic monitoring systems or generating immediate detection by incapacitated account holders. Investment portfolio management changes that David implemented included systematic liquidation of holdings and transfer of proceeds to accounts that he had established through offshore corporate structures prepared during their marriage. The timing of these transactions coincided with Rebecca's periods of maximum cognitive impairment, when she would be incapable of monitoring account activities or detecting unauthorized asset transfers. Real estate transaction preparations included listing their primary residence with agents who specialized in rapid sales while establishing alternative living arrangements that would provide David with immediate departure capabilities when theft activities reached completion. The property sale appeared motivated by medical necessity for accessing equity while actually serving his escape planning requirements. Professional network exploitation involved David's systematic communication with Rebecca's colleagues to establish narratives about her condition that would discourage independent verification of reported activities, while preventing potential interference with ongoing theft operations. His apparent devotion to her care provided credibility for information control activities that protected his theft operations from discovery. International travel arrangements that David prepared included comprehensive planning for immediate departure to jurisdictions that would provide protection from domestic law enforcement and asset recovery efforts. Business justifications for these arrangements appeared routine, while actually serving sophisticated escape planning designed to coincide with completion of systematic theft activities. Banking relationship management included establishment of correspondent accounts and wire transfer capabilities that would enable rapid movement of stolen assets to offshore locations beyond the reach of domestic legal enforcement. These arrangements appeared routine for international business activities while actually providing infrastructure for sophisticated money laundering operations. Corporate structure modifications that David implemented included establishment of additional entities and ownership transfers that would complicate asset recovery efforts while providing legal barriers to enforcement activities. The complexity of these arrangements exceeded normal business requirements, while serving specific objectives for protecting stolen assets from legal recovery efforts. Technology security measures that David installed included comprehensive monitoring of Rebecca's communications and professional contacts while preventing unauthorized access to information about his theft activities. These systems appeared motivated by medical security requirements while actually serving sophisticated counter-surveillance objectives designed to prevent detection of ongoing criminal activities. The systematic nature of David's response to Rebecca's medical crisis revealed the true purpose of their entire relationship, while demonstrating the sophisticated planning that had been concealed beneath the appearance of devoted partnership. His apparent commitment to her welfare masked calculated exploitation of vulnerability that had been anticipated and prepared for through years of strategic relationship management. The third week of chemotherapy marked the beginning of what medical professionals term the nadir period, when systemic cellular destruction reaches maximum intensity and cognitive function deteriorates to levels that render patients incapable of complex decision-making or sustained attention to detailed information. Rebecca Martinez lay in their bedroom, barely conscious from the combined effects of anti-nausea medications and the chemotherapy cocktail that was systematically destroying both malignant cells and her ability to monitor the sophisticated financial crimes being executed just floors below in David's home office. David Wellington initiated his systematic theft operations on a Monday morning, when Rebecca's oncology team confirmed that she had entered the anticipated period of severe cognitive impairment that would last approximately 10 days. This window represented the optimal opportunity for implementing complex financial transactions that required multiple authorizations and sophisticated documentation without risk of detection by the account holder, whose signature authorities he had obtained through carefully constructed medical power of attorney arrangements. The first phase of asset appropriation involved systematic liquidation of Rebecca's individual retirement accounts and investment portfolios through online trading platforms that she had established during her years of careful financial planning. David's access to her authentication credentials and security protocols enabled seamless execution of sell orders that appeared routine within the context of medical crisis financial management, while actually representing systematic theft of assets accumulated through 12 years of federal employment and disciplined investment strategies. Investment liquidation proceeds totaling $147,000 were transferred initially to intermediate accounts that David had established through domestic banking relationships developed during their marriage. These transfers appeared legitimate within the context of medical expense management, while actually serving as staging areas for subsequent international wire transfers to offshore accounts that had been prepared through his business operations and international banking relationships. The systematic approach to transaction timing involved careful coordination with Rebecca's treatment schedule to ensure that major asset transfers occurred during periods of maximum cognitive impairment when she would be incapable of monitoring account activities or recognizing unauthorized transactions. David maintained detailed medical records that documented her treatment timeline and cognitive status to provide legal justification for financial management activities that appeared necessary while actually serving his personal enrichment objectives. Banking relationship exploitation involved leveraging the trust and professional credibility that David had established through years of legitimate business operations to facilitate unauthorized transactions that appeared routine for successful business professionals managing family medical crises. Financial institution representatives who had developed professional relationships with David through Wellington Development Group had no reason to question transactions that appeared consistent with his established business patterns and apparent family obligations. Joint account management provided David with legitimate access to substantial assets that Rebecca had accumulated through federal employment while creating opportunities for systematic appropriation through graduated withdrawals that would not trigger automatic monitoring systems or generate immediate attention from financial institution security protocols. The timing and amounts of these withdrawals were carefully calculated to appear consistent with elevated medical expenses and normal household financial requirements. Real estate transaction acceleration involved immediate listing of their primary residence with agents who specialized in rapid sales to investors willing to accept below-market pricing in exchange for expedited closing procedures. The property sale appeared motivated by legitimate medical necessity for accessing home equity while actually serving David's objectives for converting illiquid assets into transferable funds that could be moved offshore before Rebecca's recovery enabled discovery of unauthorized activities. Professional service provider coordination included systematic communication with accountants, attorneys, and financial advisors who had provided services to Rebecca during her career advancement. David's apparent authority for managing her affairs during medical crisis provided credibility for information gathering and service authorization that appeared necessary while actually facilitating unauthorized access to professional accounts and confidential information about her financial resources and legal arrangements. Corporate structure exploitation through Wellington Development Group provided legitimate business justification for establishing additional offshore entities and international banking relationships that would receive and conceal stolen assets. Through complex ownership arrangements designed to complicate recovery efforts and prevent successful legal enforcement by domestic authorities. The second major liquidation phase involved systematic appropriation of Rebecca's federal retirement benefits and accumulated leave balances through early withdrawal procedures that appeared necessary for medical expense management. David's medical power of attorney authority provided legal justification for initiating these transactions, while penalty structures for early withdrawal created apparent disincentives that made the transactions appear legitimate responses to extraordinary medical circumstances rather than systematic theft. Insurance claim acceleration involved maximizing reimbursements for medical expenses through strategic submission of documentation that appeared routine while actually providing additional funding sources that could be appropriated through the same offshore transfer mechanisms being used for investment proceeds and retirement account liquidations. The complexity of medical insurance procedures provided perfect cover for financial activities that appeared necessary for treatment support. Professional network communication involved systematic information management designed to prevent Rebecca's colleagues from obtaining independent verification of her condition or discovering inconsistencies in reported financial activities. David's role as primary caregiver provided legitimate justification for controlling access while gathering intelligence about potential sources of interference with his theft operations. Technology security implementation included comprehensive monitoring of Rebecca's communications and professional contacts while preventing unauthorized access to information about ongoing financial transactions. These systems appeared motivated by medical security requirements while actually serving sophisticated counter-surveillance objectives designed to prevent premature discovery of systematic theft activities. International wire transfer execution involved moving accumulated proceeds from domestic asset liquidation to offshore accounts through correspondent banking relationships that David had established during legitimate business operations. The complexity and international scope of these transfers provided barriers to detection while creating legal obstacles that would complicate recovery efforts when theft activities were eventually discovered. Family communication management included systematic information control designed to prevent relatives from obtaining independent assessment of Rebecca's condition or discovering evidence of unauthorized financial activities. David's apparent devotion to her medical care provided credibility for limiting family access while maintaining narratives that supported his financial management activities and prevented potential interference from concerned relatives. Legal Documentation preparation involved establishing alternative explanations for financial transactions that would provide apparent justification for asset transfers if challenged during future legal proceedings. The sophistication of these preparations demonstrated comprehensive understanding of legal requirements for proving legitimate authority while creating barriers to successful prosecution of financial crimes. Medical crisis exploitation reached maximum intensity during Rebecca's fourth week of treatment, when complications from chemotherapy required emergency hospitalization for management of severe neutropenia and dehydration. Her complete incapacitation during this medical emergency provided David with optimal conditions for implementing the final phases of asset appropriation without any possibility of detection or interference from the account holder. Emergency. Medical authorization procedures provided David with enhanced legal authority for financial decision-making while creating apparent justification for expedited asset transfers that appeared necessary for managing critical medical expenses. The urgency of Rebecca's medical condition provided perfect cover for financial activities that would otherwise generate scrutiny from banking security protocols. Hospital-based asset appropriation involved systematic liquidation of remaining investment accounts and completion of real estate sale procedures, while Rebecca remained unconscious in intensive care management. The timing of these activities eliminated any possibility of detection while providing David with comprehensive control over asset disposition and transfer procedures. Professional relationship termination involved systematic notification of Rebecca's business associates and professional contacts about her critical condition, while establishing narratives that would discourage future communication or independent verification of reported circumstances. These communications appeared motivated by appropriate privacy protection, while actually serving David's objectives for preventing interference with his ongoing theft activities. Offshore account consolidation involved transferring accumulated proceeds from domestic asset liquidation to final destination accounts in jurisdictions that provided maximum protection from recovery efforts. The complexity of international banking procedures and legal frameworks created barriers to enforcement while ensuring that stolen assets would remain beyond the reach of domestic legal authorities. Travel preparation activities included comprehensive planning for immediate departure from domestic jurisdiction when asset transfer operations reached completion. Business justifications for international travel appeared routine, while actually serving sophisticated escape planning designed to coincide with the conclusion of systematic theft operations. Communication security measures involved destroying evidence of financial transactions while maintaining alternative documentation that would support legitimate explanations for asset transfers if questioned during future legal proceedings. The systematic approach to evidence management demonstrated sophisticated understanding of legal requirements for proving criminal intent while creating reasonable doubt about unauthorized activities. The final liquidation phase involved completion of remaining asset transfers while Rebecca remained hospitalized for management of treatment complications. Her complete incapacitation eliminated any possibility of detection, while enabling David to execute the concluding elements of theft operations that had been planned and prepared through years of strategic relationship management. Documentation. Destruction activities included systematic elimination of evidence that might reveal the true scope and methodology of asset appropriation, while preserving materials that would support alternative explanations for financial transactions. The sophistication of these evidence management procedures demonstrated comprehensive understanding of legal requirements for proving systematic theft while creating barriers to successful prosecution. Asset concealment completion involved final transfers to ultimate destination accounts while implementing additional security measures designed to prevent detection and complicate recovery efforts. The international scope and complexity of these arrangements exceeded normal business requirements while serving specific objectives for protecting stolen assets from legal enforcement and recovery proceedings. By the conclusion of Rebecca's hospitalization period, David had successfully appropriated over $340,000 in liquid assets while establishing legal barriers and international complications that would make recovery extremely difficult, even after discovery. Of his systematic theft activities, medical recovery from intensive chemotherapy involves gradual restoration of cognitive function that occurs in unpredictable phases, with moments of clarity emerging sporadically before establishing sustained mental acuity. Dr. Rebecca Martinez experienced her first sustained period of analytical thinking during the 6th week of treatment, when the accumulated effects of anti-nausea medications began diminishing, and her natural investigative instincts reasserted themselves, despite continued physical weakness from ongoing cancer treatment. The initial awakening occurred on a Wednesday morning in January, when Rebecca found herself alone in their bedroom with sufficient mental clarity to notice discrepancies in the financial documents scattered across David's usually organized desk in the adjacent home office. Her training as a forensic accountant had developed pattern recognition capabilities that operated automatically when presented with financial information, even during periods of reduced cognitive capacity caused by medical treatment. Bank statements, visible through the partially open office door, revealed account balances that appeared inconsistent with her recollection of their financial position before treatment began. The systematic approach to document analysis that had characterized her professional career reasserted itself despite physical weakness, prompting careful observation of materials that David had assumed she was too impaired to comprehend or investigate systematically. Professional instincts that had been temporarily suppressed by medical treatment began functioning automatically when Rebecca's cognitive capacity reached sufficient levels to process complex information. Her expertise in detecting financial irregularities operated subconsciously, identifying patterns and anomalies that would be invisible to individuals without specialized training in forensic accounting and financial crime investigation. The documentation review that Rebecca conducted during David's absence for business meetings revealed systematic liquidation of investment accounts that she had not authorized or been consulted about despite her improving condition. The timing and methodology of these transactions demonstrated sophistication that exceeded normal medical crisis financial management, while suggesting systematic appropriation rather than legitimate expense coverage. Memory restoration regarding pre-treatment financial arrangements provided Rebecca with baseline information necessary for evaluating the legitimacy of transactions that had occurred during her incapacitation. Her systematic approach to personal financial management had created detailed records that enabled comparison between authorized activities and the unauthorized appropriation that David had been conducting during her treatment period. The discovery process required careful investigation without alerting David to her improved cognitive function or growing awareness of unauthorized financial activities. Rebecca's experience conducting covert financial investigations for federal law enforcement provided expertise in gathering evidence while maintaining operational security and preventing subjects from becoming aware of investigative activities that might prompt evidence destruction or asset concealment. Professional network activation began discreetly when Rebecca regained sufficient cognitive function to communicate securely with former colleagues who possessed specialized expertise in financial crime investigation. Her reputation within the federal law enforcement community provided access to resources and technical capabilities that would be essential for documenting and recovering stolen assets through appropriate legal mechanisms. Technology access during David's business travel provided opportunities for Rebecca to conduct preliminary investigation of their financial accounts while documenting evidence of unauthorized transactions and systematic asset appropriation. Her expertise in forensic accounting enabled rapid identification of transaction patterns that revealed the sophisticated methodology David had employed during her incapacitation period. Evidence preservation activities began immediately when Rebecca confirmed the scope of systematic theft that had been conducted during her medical treatment. Professional standards for financial crime investigation required comprehensive documentation of unauthorized activities while maintaining chain of custody procedures that would ensure admissibility during legal proceedings and asset recovery efforts. The psychological impact of discovering systematic betrayal by a trusted spouse during medical crisis created emotional challenges that competed with practical demands for immediate investigative action. Rebecca's professional training in managing complex cases under extreme pressure provided frameworks for maintaining analytical objectivity while processing the personal devastation of discovering calculated exploitation during her most vulnerable period. Communication security became essential for conducting investigation activities without alerting David to her recovery or growing awareness of his theft operations. Federal law enforcement training in covert operations provided Rebecca with expertise in secure communication methods and counter-surveillance techniques that enabled evidence gathering while preventing premature discovery that might prompt accelerated asset concealment or evidence destruction. Financial institution contact required careful coordination to verify unauthorized transactions while avoiding alerts that might notify David of investigative activities. Rebecca's professional relationships within the banking security community provided access to specialized personnel who could assist with account verification and transaction documentation without triggering automatic notification systems that might compromise ongoing investigation. Legal consultation regarding asset recovery and criminal prosecution required identifying attorneys with specialized expertise in complex financial crimes while maintaining confidentiality about ongoing investigation activities. Professional networks within the federal law enforcement community provided recommendations for legal representation with proven capabilities in international asset recovery and sophisticated fraud prosecution. The systematic approach to evidence development that Rebecca implemented reflected comprehensive understanding of legal requirements for proving financial crimes while ensuring that documentation standards would support both civil recovery actions and criminal prosecution. Her experience testifying in federal court provided insight into evidentiary requirements and presentation strategies that would maximize prospects for successful legal outcomes. Medical treatment continuation during investigation activities required balancing physical recovery needs with demands of complex financial crime investigation. The scheduled chemotherapy treatments provided David with continued opportunities for believing that Rebecca remained incapacitated while actually providing her with protected time periods for conducting covert investigative activities without risk of detection. Professional expertise application to personal crisis demonstrated the value of specialized training and systematic analytical capabilities for detecting and countering sophisticated financial crimes. Rebecca's background in forensic accounting provided exactly the skills necessary for identifying, documenting, and recovering assets that had been systematically appropriated through exploitation of medical vulnerability. International asset tracing required coordination with specialized investigators who possessed expertise in offshore banking and complex corporate structures that David had employed for concealing stolen assets. Professional relationships within federal law enforcement provided access to resources and technical capabilities that would be essential for penetrating defensive arrangements and recovering funds that had been transferred to international accounts. Evidence organization activities involved systematic compilation of documentation that would support comprehensive legal action while meeting evidentiary standards for both civil and criminal proceedings. Rebecca's experience managing complex federal investigations provided expertise in case development and presentation strategies that would maximize prospects for successful asset recovery and appropriate criminal consequences. Timeline reconstruction required detailed analysis of David's activities during her treatment period, while correlating unauthorized transactions with specific periods of cognitive impairment that provided apparent justification for medical power of attorney authority. This analysis revealed the sophisticated planning and precise timing that characterized his systematic theft operations. Professional consultation with former colleagues provided verification of investigative methodology while ensuring that evidence development activities met federal standards for financial crime investigation. These consultations also provided access to specialized resources and technical capabilities that would be essential for comprehensive investigation of international financial transactions. Family communication coordination required careful information management to prevent David from discovering investigation activities while ensuring that trusted relatives could provide support for legal proceedings and recovery efforts. Rebecca's sister Jennifer, who worked as a federal prosecutor, became a crucial resource for legal strategy development and coordination with appropriate law enforcement agencies. Corporate structure analysis revealed the sophistication of offshore arrangements that David had established for concealing stolen assets, while demonstrating comprehensive understanding of international banking procedures and legal barriers to asset recovery. This analysis provided strategic intelligence for developing effective recovery strategies and identifying vulnerabilities in David's defensive arrangements. Banking security coordination involved working with financial institutions to implement protective measures that would prevent further unauthorized transactions while preserving evidence of systematic theft for legal proceedings. Professional relationships within the banking security community provided access to specialized capabilities and resources that supported investigation objectives while maintaining operational security. The medical crisis that had created vulnerability for systematic exploitation was gradually transforming into the foundation for comprehensive investigation and recovery efforts that would demonstrate the power of professional expertise applied to personal crisis. Rebecca's training as a forensic accountant was becoming the weapon that would destroy David's carefully constructed theft operation and ensure appropriate consequences for his calculated betrayal. Recovery planning coordination involved developing comprehensive strategies for asset recovery while ensuring that legal proceedings would create appropriate consequences for sophisticated financial crimes. Professional networks within federal law enforcement provided access to specialized resources and expertise that would be essential for successful prosecution and recovery of stolen assets through domestic and international legal mechanisms. The systematic approach to investigation and recovery that Rebecca was implementing demonstrated how professional expertise and ethical standards create powerful defenses against sophisticated financial crimes, even when those crimes exploit periods of medical vulnerability and apparent helplessness. The transformation from victimized patient to empowered investigator required Rebecca Martinez to simultaneously manage her ongoing cancer treatment while conducting the most complex financial crime investigation of her career. The irony was not lost on her that the same chemotherapy treatments David believed would keep her incapacitated were actually providing the protected time periods she needed to systematically dismantle his carefully constructed theft operation. Rebecca's approach to evidence gathering reflected 12 years of federal law enforcement training, adapted to the unique challenges of investigating crimes committed against herself during periods of medical vulnerability. The systematic methodology she employed demonstrated how professional expertise could be applied to personal crisis situations, transforming devastating betrayal into strategic advantage through disciplined application of specialized knowledge. The secure communication protocols Rebecca established for coordinating with her professional network required sophisticated counter-surveillance techniques to prevent David from discovering her investigative activities. Her experience conducting covert financial investigations provided exactly the skills necessary for maintaining operational security while gathering evidence that would support comprehensive legal action against systematic theft operations. Technology security measures became essential when Rebecca realized that David had installed comprehensive monitoring systems throughout their home computer network under the guise of medical security requirements. Her expertise in federal cybersecurity procedures enabled identification and circumvention of surveillance systems while establishing alternative communication channels that could not be monitored by the subject of her investigation. The first major breakthrough in Rebecca's investigation occurred when she discovered David's offshore banking documentation hidden within apparently legitimate business files for Wellington Development Group. Professional training in forensic accounting enabled rapid identification of corporate structures and financial arrangements that exceeded normal business requirements while serving specific objectives for concealing systematically appropriated assets. Banking relationship analysis revealed the sophisticated network of correspondent accounts and wire transfer capabilities that David had established through apparently legitimate business operations. Rebecca's expertise in international financial crime investigation provided frameworks for understanding complex offshore arrangements, while identifying vulnerabilities that could be exploited for asset recovery and legal enforcement activities. Evidence preservation activities required implementing comprehensive documentation procedures while maintaining absolute secrecy about investigative operations. Federal law enforcement standards for financial crime investigation provided established protocols for evidence collection and chain of custody procedures that would ensure admissibility during legal proceedings while supporting both civil recovery actions and criminal prosecution efforts. Professional network activation began discreetly when Rebecca reached out to Jennifer Martinez Chen, her sister who served as a federal prosecutor specializing in complex financial crimes. Jennifer's expertise in prosecuting sophisticated fraud cases provided strategic guidance for evidence development, while ensuring that investigative activities met legal standards for successful prosecution and asset recovery through appropriate judicial mechanisms. The systematic approach to financial institution contact required careful coordination with banking security personnel who possessed specialized expertise in detecting and investigating unauthorized transactions. Rebecca's professional relationships within the financial crimes community provided access to resources and technical capabilities that enabled comprehensive account analysis while maintaining operational security and preventing premature disclosure of investigative activities. Corporate structure investigation revealed the true sophistication of David's preparation for systematic theft operations. Wellington Development Group served as the foundation for complex offshore arrangements that included multiple subsidiary entities, international banking relationships, and legal structures designed to complicate asset recovery efforts while providing apparent legitimacy for suspicious financial transactions during medical crisis periods. The psychological challenge of investigating systematic betrayal by a trusted spouse while managing cancer treatment created emotional pressures that threatened to overwhelm analytical objectivity. Rebecca's professional training in maintaining investigative focus during high-stress situations provided frameworks for compartmentalizing personal devastation while ensuring that evidence development activities met professional standards for complex financial crime investigation. Medical treatment scheduling provided natural cover for investigative activities while creating protected time periods when David's business travel enabled unrestricted access to financial documentation and communication systems. The chemotherapy. Appointments that David believed rendered Rebecca incapable of complex thinking actually provided optimal opportunities for conducting sophisticated investigation without risk of detection or interference. International asset tracing required coordination with specialized investigators who possessed expertise in penetrating offshore banking secrecy and complex corporate structures. Rebecca's professional relationships within federal law enforcement provided access to resources and technical capabilities that would be essential for following money trails through multiple jurisdictions while overcoming legal barriers designed to prevent asset recovery efforts. Timeline reconstruction activities involved detailed analysis of David's systematic appropriation methodology while correlating unauthorized transactions with specific periods of medical incapacitation that provided apparent justification for power of attorney authority. This comprehensive analysis revealed the precise planning and calculated timing that characterized his theft operations while demonstrating clear evidence of fraudulent intent and systematic exploitation. Legal consultation coordination required, identifying attorneys with proven expertise in complex international financial crimes while maintaining absolute confidentiality about ongoing investigative activities. Professional networks within the federal law enforcement community provided recommendations for legal representation with demonstrated capabilities in offshore asset recovery and sophisticated fraud prosecution in cases involving medical vulnerability exploitation. Financial institution security coordination involved implementing protective measures to prevent further unauthorized transactions while preserving evidence of systematic theft for legal proceedings. Banking security personnel who had developed professional relationships with Rebecca through her federal law enforcement career provided specialized assistance and technical capabilities that supported investigation objectives while maintaining operational security requirements. The discovery of David's escape planning documentation revealed the comprehensive nature of his theft operation, while demonstrating that systematic asset appropriation was only one component of elaborate arrangements for avoiding legal consequences. Travel itineraries, international residence planning, and business establishment documentation indicated sophisticated preparation for permanent departure from domestic jurisdiction once theft operations reached completion. Communication monitoring. Systems that David had implemented throughout their home network were systematically identified and circumvented through application of federal cybersecurity procedures. Rebecca's expertise in covert operations enabled establishment of secure communication channels while preventing David from discovering investigative activities that could prompt accelerated asset concealment or evidence destruction efforts. Professional expertise application to personal crisis demonstrated the transformative power of specialized training when applied to situations involving systematic financial exploitation. Rebecca's background in forensic accounting provided exactly the analytical capabilities and technical knowledge necessary for detecting, documenting, and countering sophisticated theft operations that exploited medical vulnerability and trusted relationship dynamics. Evidence development activities expanded beyond simple transaction documentation to include comprehensive analysis of David's business operations, professional relationships, and international connections that supported systematic theft capabilities. This holistic investigation revealed the true scope of his criminal enterprise while identifying multiple avenues for asset recovery and legal enforcement through domestic and international cooperation mechanisms. The systematic approach to case development that Rebecca implemented reflected comprehensive understanding of legal requirements for proving sophisticated financial crimes, while ensuring that documentation standards would support maximum asset recovery and appropriate criminal consequences. Her experience testifying in federal court provided strategic insight into evidentiary requirements and presentation methodologies that would optimize prospects for successful legal outcomes. Technology forensics activities required sophisticated analysis of computer systems and communication records to document David's systematic planning and execution of theft operations. Rebecca's federal law enforcement training provided expertise in digital evidence collection and analysis, while ensuring that investigative activities met legal standards for admissibility during criminal prosecution and civil recovery proceedings. Family support coordination involved careful communication with trusted relatives who could provide assistance without compromising operational security or alerting David to investigative activities. Jennifer's expertise as a federal prosecutor became invaluable for legal strategy development, while ensuring that family support activities aligned with professional investigation objectives and evidence preservation requirements. Banking security protocol implementation involved working with financial institutions to establish monitoring systems that would detect any additional unauthorized activities while protecting remaining assets from further appropriation. Professional relationships within the banking security community provided access to specialized capabilities and resources that supported protective objectives while maintaining comprehensive documentation of all suspicious activities. The medical crisis that had initially created vulnerability for systematic exploitation was being transformed into the foundation for comprehensive investigation and recovery efforts that demonstrated the power of professional expertise applied with strategic precision. Rebecca's training as a forensic accountant was becoming the weapon that would systematically destroy David's carefully constructed criminal operation while ensuring appropriate legal consequences for calculated betrayal during medical vulnerability. Recovery planning activities involved developing comprehensive strategies for asset recovery while coordinating with appropriate law enforcement agencies to ensure criminal prosecution of sophisticated financial crimes. Professional networks within federal law enforcement provided access to specialized resources and expertise that would be essential for successful prosecution and recovery of stolen assets through coordinated domestic and international legal mechanisms. The investigative framework that Rebecca was implementing demonstrated how professional competence and ethical standards create powerful defenses against sophisticated financial crimes, even when those crimes exploit periods of apparent helplessness and systematic vulnerability. Her methodical approach to evidence development was establishing the foundation for complete asset recovery, while ensuring that David would face appropriate consequences for his calculated exploitation of medical crisis and trusted relationship dynamics. Asset protection measures were implemented to prevent further unauthorized activities while preserving comprehensive evidence of systematic theft for both civil and criminal legal proceedings. The sophisticated approach to protective coordination demonstrated how professional expertise could be rapidly deployed to counter ongoing criminal operations while building cases that would ensure maximum legal consequences and complete financial recovery. Professional consultation activities expanded to include specialized investigators with expertise in international asset recovery and complex fraud prosecution. These professional relationships provided access to technical capabilities and legal resources that would be essential for penetrating David's offshore defensive arrangements, while ensuring successful recovery of systematically appropriated assets through appropriate judicial mechanisms. The systematic nature of Rebecca's investigative response to David's calculated betrayal was establishing a comprehensive foundation for legal action that would demonstrate the transformative power of professional expertise applied to personal crisis situations. Her methodical approach to evidence development was creating the basis for complete vindication while ensuring that sophisticated financial crimes would face appropriate legal consequences regardless of the vulnerability exploitation that enabled their initial success. Communication security protocols were continuously refined to maintain operational security while coordinating with expanding networks of professional investigators and legal specialists. Federal law enforcement training provided frameworks for managing complex multi-jurisdictional investigations while ensuring that evidence development activities met the highest standards for successful prosecution and asset recovery through appropriate legal mechanisms. The foundation of strategic recovery that Rebecca was establishing through systematic application of professional expertise demonstrated how specialized training and ethical standards could overcome even the most sophisticated forms of financial exploitation. Her disciplined approach to investigation and evidence development was creating the basis for complete triumph over calculated betrayal, while inspiring others facing similar challenges to recognize the power of professional competence, applied with strategic precision and unwavering determination. The 7th week of Rebecca's recovery marked a pivotal transformation that would define the remainder of her journey from victim to victor. The cognitive clarity that had begun emerging sporadically during her previous investigations now stabilized into sustained analytical capability that exceeded even her pre-treatment professional performance. The systematic poisoning of her body through chemotherapy had paradoxically sharpened her mental faculties in ways that surprised both her medical team and herself. Dr. Sarah Chen observed during Rebecca's weekly oncology consultation that her patient displayed remarkable resilience not only in physical recovery, but in cognitive function that seemed enhanced rather than diminished by the treatment protocol. The neurological assessments that typically showed significant impairment in cancer patients undergoing aggressive chemotherapy instead revealed heightened pattern recognition abilities and accelerated information processing that defied medical expectations for individuals in her treatment stage. Rebecca understood that this unexpected cognitive enhancement represented a unique opportunity to leverage her investigative capabilities at precisely the moment when David believed her most vulnerable and least capable of detecting his sophisticated criminal operations. The irony of achieving peak professional performance during the period when her husband assumed complete control over their financial affairs provided strategic advantages that she intended to exploit with systematic precision. The comprehensive case file that Rebecca had been developing during her covert investigation now contained documentation that exceeded federal standards for complex financial crime prosecution. Her methodical approach to evidence collection had produced a detailed timeline of David's systematic theft activities that correlated unauthorized transactions with specific periods of medical incapacitation, creating irrefutable proof of calculated exploitation during times of documented vulnerability. Professional consultation with Jennifer Martinez Chen had evolved from basic legal advice to sophisticated strategic planning for coordinated civil and criminal actions that would ensure maximum asset recovery while creating appropriate legal consequences for David's systematic betrayal. Jennifer's expertise in prosecuting complex financial crimes provided frameworks for developing prosecution strategies that would overcome defensive arrangements David had established through offshore banking and international corporate structures. The banking security analysis that Rebecca had conducted revealed vulnerabilities in David's asset concealment methodology that could be exploited for comprehensive recovery efforts. Her expertise in international financial crime investigation enabled identification of correspondent banking relationships and wire transfer procedures that provided investigative pathways for tracing stolen assets through multiple jurisdictions, while overcoming legal barriers designed to prevent asset recovery activities. Technology forensics capabilities that Rebecca possessed through federal law enforcement training enabled comprehensive analysis of David's computer systems and communication records that documented systematic planning and coordination of theft operations. Digital evidence collection procedures that she implemented exceeded legal standards for admissibility while revealing the full scope of David's criminal enterprise and his coordination with accomplices who had assisted in offshore asset concealment activities. Corporate structure investigation had revealed that Wellington Development Group served as the foundation for sophisticated criminal operations that extended far beyond simple theft of marital assets. David's business relationships included international money laundering specialists, offshore banking consultants, and legal professionals who provided services that facilitated systematic appropriation of assets while creating defensive barriers against legal enforcement and recovery efforts. The psychological transformation that Rebecca experienced during this period reflected the profound empowerment that emerged from applying professional expertise to personal crisis situations. The devastating betrayal that might have destroyed individuals without specialized training instead became the catalyst for demonstrating the transformative power of systematic competence applied with strategic precision and unwavering determination to achieve complete vindication and recovery. Medical treatment continuation provided perfect operational cover for expanding investigative activities, while maintaining absolute secrecy about the comprehensive case development that was proceeding during David's continued business travel. The chemotherapy appointments that he monitored for signs of cognitive improvement actually concealed sophisticated investigation operations that were systematically dismantling his criminal enterprise while building evidence for comprehensive legal action. International asset tracing activities had progressed beyond simple identification of offshore accounts to include comprehensive mapping of David's entire financial network across multiple jurisdictions. Professional relationships within federal law enforcement provided access to specialized investigators and technical resources that enabled penetration of banking secrecy arrangements while developing strategies for asset recovery through coordinated international legal mechanisms. Evidence preservation protocols that Rebecca implemented ensured comprehensive documentation of David's systematic theft activities while maintaining chain-of-custody procedures that would support both civil recovery actions and criminal prosecution efforts. Federal law enforcement standards for complex financial crime investigation provided established frameworks for evidence collection that would withstand challenges during legal proceedings while maximizing prospects for successful outcomes. The systematic approach to case development that Rebecca was implementing demonstrated how professional competence could transform devastating personal crisis into opportunities for complete vindication and recovery. Her methodical investigation was establishing foundations for legal action that would ensure appropriate consequences for sophisticated financial crimes, while inspiring others facing similar challenges to recognize the power of specialized expertise applied with strategic determination. Professional network coordination had expanded to include specialized investigators with expertise in international asset recovery, complex fraud prosecution, and sophisticated money laundering operations. These professional relationships provided access to technical capabilities and legal resources that would be essential for successful prosecution and complete recovery of systematically appropriated assets through appropriate judicial mechanisms. Communication security measures that Rebecca maintained enabled coordination with expanding networks of professional investigators, while preventing David from discovering the comprehensive investigation that was proceeding during his continued exploitation of her apparent medical vulnerability. Federal training in covert operations provided frameworks for managing complex investigations while maintaining operational security that protected evidence development activities from premature disclosure. Banking relationship coordination involved working with financial institution security personnel to implement monitoring systems that would detect any additional unauthorized activities while documenting ongoing theft operations for legal proceedings. Professional relationships within the banking security community provided specialized assistance and technical capabilities that supported protective objectives while ensuring comprehensive evidence collection for prosecution purposes. Legal strategy development had progressed beyond simple asset recovery to include comprehensive approaches for criminal prosecution that would create maximum consequences for David's calculated exploitation of medical vulnerability and trusted relationship. Dynamics. Coordination with federal prosecutors provided strategic frameworks for developing cases that would overcome defensive arrangements while ensuring successful prosecution of sophisticated financial crimes. The transformation from victimized patient to empowered investigator demonstrated the profound impact of professional expertise applied to personal crisis situations. Rebecca's systematic approach to evidence development was creating comprehensive foundations for legal action that would ensure complete asset recovery while establishing precedents for prosecuting sophisticated financial crimes that exploit medical vulnerability and trusted relationship exploitation. Family support coordination with Jennifer and other trusted relatives provided additional resources for investigation and legal action while maintaining operational security that prevented David from discovering the comprehensive case development proceeding during his continued theft operations. Professional guidance ensured that family assistance aligned with investigation objectives while supporting evidence preservation and legal strategy development activities. The medical crisis that had initially created vulnerability for systematic exploitation was being transformed into the foundation for complete vindication and recovery through application of professional expertise with strategic precision. Rebecca's training as a forensic accountant was becoming the weapon that would systematically destroy David's criminal operation while ensuring appropriate legal consequences for calculated betrayal during medical vulnerability. Asset protection. Measures were expanded to include comprehensive monitoring of all financial accounts while implementing security protocols that would prevent further unauthorized activities. Coordination with banking security personnel ensured real-time detection of suspicious activities while maintaining documentation standards that would support legal proceedings and asset recovery efforts through appropriate judicial mechanisms. Recovery planning activities involved developing comprehensive strategies for complete asset recovery while coordinating with law enforcement agencies to ensure criminal prosecution of sophisticated financial crimes. Professional networks within federal law enforcement provided access to specialized resources and expertise that would be essential for successful prosecution and recovery of stolen assets through coordinated domestic and international legal mechanisms. The investigative excellence that Rebecca was demonstrating during her medical recovery period established new standards for applying professional competence to personal crisis situations. Her methodical approach to evidence development was creating foundations for complete triumph over calculated betrayal, while inspiring others to recognize the transformative power of specialized expertise, applied with unwavering determination and strategic precision. Professional consultation activities had expanded to include international asset recovery specialists who possessed technical capabilities for penetrating offshore defensive arrangements while ensuring successful recovery of systematically appropriated assets. These specialized relationships provided access to legal resources and technical expertise that would be essential for overcoming international barriers to asset recovery and criminal prosecution. Technology security protocols were continuously refined to maintain operational security while coordinating with expanding networks of professional investigators and legal specialists. Federal law enforcement training provided frameworks for managing complex multi-jurisdictional investigations while ensuring that evidence development activities met the highest standards for successful prosecution and complete asset recovery. The foundation of investigative excellence that Rebecca was establishing through systematic application of professional expertise demonstrated how specialized training could overcome even the most sophisticated forms of financial exploitation. Her disciplined approach to case development was creating the basis for complete vindication while establishing precedents for protecting vulnerable individuals from systematic financial crimes that exploit medical crisis and trusted relationship dynamics. Corporate intelligence analysis revealed the full scope of David's criminal enterprise while identifying additional defendants and asset concealment mechanisms that would be targeted for recovery and prosecution efforts. Professional expertise in complex financial crime investigation enabled comprehensive mapping of criminal operations while developing strategic approaches for dismantling sophisticated theft networks and ensuring appropriate legal consequences for all participants. The systematic nature of Rebecca's investigative response to David's calculated betrayal was establishing comprehensive foundations for legal action that would demonstrate the transformative power of professional expertise applied to personal crisis. Her methodical approach to evidence development was creating the basis for complete asset recovery while ensuring that sophisticated financial crimes would face maximum legal consequences regardless of the vulnerability exploitation that enabled their initial success. Evidence analysis activities had progressed to include comprehensive correlation of David's theft operations with his business travel schedule and international banking activities. This detailed timeline analysis revealed systematic coordination with offshore accomplices while documenting the precise methodology employed for asset appropriation during periods of documented medical incapacitation and cognitive impairment. Professional development during crisis demonstrated how challenging circumstances could enhance rather than diminish specialized capabilities when approached with systematic methodology and strategic thinking. Rebecca's investigative performance during medical treatment exceeded her previous professional achievements while establishing new standards for applying forensic accounting expertise to complex personal crisis situations involving systematic financial exploitation. The emergence of hidden excellence during Rebecca's recovery period illustrated the profound impact of professional competence applied with strategic precision to overcome sophisticated criminal operations. Her systematic approach to investigation and evidence development was creating comprehensive foundations for complete vindication while inspiring others facing similar challenges to recognize the transformative power of specialized expertise combined with unwavering determination and strategic thinking. Banking forensics analysis revealed additional evidence of David's systematic planning and coordination with offshore accomplices who had assisted in asset concealment and money laundering operations. Professional expertise in international financial crime investigation enabled identification of criminal networks while developing strategic approaches for asset recovery and prosecution that would ensure maximum legal consequences for all participants in sophisticated theft operations. The transformative power of professional excellence applied to personal crisis was demonstrated through Rebecca's systematic development of comprehensive legal action that would ensure complete asset recovery while creating appropriate consequences for calculated exploitation of medical vulnerability. Her methodical investigation was establishing precedents for protecting vulnerable individuals while inspiring others to recognize the power of specialized competence applied with strategic determination and unwavering commitment to justice and recovery. The 8th week of Rebecca's treatment marked the beginning of a sophisticated deception that would demonstrate the profound irony of professional excellence concealed beneath the appearance of medical vulnerability. While David continued his systematic theft operations, believing his wife remained cognitively impaired and incapable of complex analytical thinking, Rebecca was conducting the most comprehensive financial crime investigation of her distinguished career, utilizing resources and capabilities that far exceeded anything available during her federal law enforcement service. The transformation of her home office into a sophisticated command center for financial crime investigation occurred gradually during David's business travel periods, when Rebecca's apparent need for rest and medical recovery provided perfect operational cover for establishing secure communication networks and advanced analytical capabilities. The medical equipment that David had installed for monitoring her condition actually concealed comprehensive technology systems that enabled real-time coordination with federal investigators and international asset recovery specialists. Professional relationships that Rebecca had cultivated during 12 years of federal service were now providing unprecedented access to investigative resources and technical capabilities that would have been impossible to obtain through conventional channels. Former colleagues who had witnessed her expertise in complex financial crime cases were eager to provide assistance and specialized knowledge that supported her investigation of systematic theft operations that exceeded the sophistication of most federal cases they had handled collectively. The irony of David's situation became increasingly pronounced as his theft operations provided Rebecca with perfect case study material for developing innovative investigative techniques that would advance the field of forensic accounting, while serving as the foundation for her complete vindication and recovery. The criminal enterprise that he believed was succeeding undetected was actually being documented with precision that exceeded federal standards for complex financial crime prosecution. Banking security coordination had evolved into comprehensive partnerships with financial institutions that provided real-time monitoring of suspicious activities while documenting David's systematic appropriation methodology for legal proceedings. Professional relationships within the banking security community enabled implementation of sophisticated detection systems that tracked every unauthorized transaction while building comprehensive evidence files that would support both civil recovery actions and criminal prosecution efforts. International asset tracing capabilities that Rebecca accessed through federal law enforcement networks enabled penetration of offshore banking secrecy arrangements that David believed provided complete protection for stolen assets. Specialized investigators with expertise in complex money laundering operations were systematically mapping his entire financial network while developing strategic approaches for asset recovery that would overcome international legal barriers and defensive arrangements. The psychological dimension of conducting covert investigation while maintaining the appearance of medical incapacitation required sophisticated operational security measures that drew upon Rebecca's extensive training in federal law enforcement procedures. The daily performance of cognitive impairment that deceived David into continuing his theft operations actually provided optimal conditions for evidence development activities that were proceeding without detection or interference from the subject of investigation. Technology forensics analysis had revealed the full scope of David's computer network and communication systems that documented his coordination with offshore accomplices and international money laundering specialists. Digital evidence collection, Procedures that Rebecca implemented exceeded legal standards for admissibility, while revealing criminal operations that extended far beyond simple theft of marital assets to include systematic fraud operations that targeted multiple victims through exploitation of medical vulnerabilities. Corporate structure investigation had progressed beyond analysis of Wellington Development Group to include comprehensive mapping of international business networks that supported sophisticated criminal operations. Professional expertise in forensic accounting enabled identification of shell companies, offshore banking arrangements, and legal structures that facilitated systematic asset appropriation while creating apparent legitimacy for suspicious financial transactions during medical crisis exploitation. Legal strategy development with Jennifer Martinez Chen had evolved into comprehensive planning for coordinated prosecution efforts that would ensure maximum criminal consequences while achieving complete asset recovery through domestic and international legal mechanisms. Federal prosecution experience provided frameworks for developing cases that would overcome defensive arrangements while establishing precedents for protecting vulnerable individuals from systematic financial exploitation during medical crises. The evidence preservation protocols that Rebecca maintained ensured comprehensive documentation of David's criminal activities while establishing chain of custody procedures that would withstand challenges during complex legal proceedings. Federal law enforcement standards for financial crime investigation provided established frameworks for evidence collection that would support successful prosecution while maximizing prospects for complete asset recovery and appropriate criminal consequences. Professional consultation networks had expanded to include international asset recovery specialists who possessed technical capabilities for penetrating sophisticated defensive arrangements while ensuring successful recovery of systematically appropriated funds. These specialized relationships provided access to legal resources and investigative expertise that would be essential for overcoming international barriers to asset recovery and criminal prosecution of complex money laundering operations. Communication security measures that Rebecca implemented enabled coordination with expanding networks of professional investigators while maintaining absolute operational security that prevented David from discovering the comprehensive investigation proceeding during his continued exploitation of her apparent medical vulnerability. Federal training in covert operations provided frameworks for managing complex multi-jurisdictional investigations, while ensuring evidence development activities met the highest professional standards. The systematic approach to case development that Rebecca was implementing demonstrated the transformative power of professional expertise applied to personal crisis situations with strategic precision and unwavering commitment to achieving complete vindication. Her methodical investigation was establishing foundations for legal action that would ensure appropriate consequences for sophisticated financial crimes, while inspiring others facing similar challenges to recognize the power of specialized competence applied with systematic determination. Banking relationship coordination involved implementing sophisticated monitoring systems that provided real-time detection of unauthorized activities while documenting ongoing theft operations for comprehensive legal proceedings. Professional relationships within financial institution security communities provided specialized assistance and technical capabilities that supported protective objectives while ensuring thorough evidence collection for prosecution purposes and asset recovery efforts. Asset protection measures were expanded to include comprehensive security protocols that would prevent further unauthorized activities while maintaining detailed documentation of systematic theft for legal proceedings. Coordination with banking. Security personnel ensured immediate detection of suspicious activities while preserving evidence integrity that would support successful prosecution and complete asset recovery through appropriate judicial mechanisms. Family support coordination with Jennifer and other trusted relatives provided additional investigative resources while maintaining operational security that protected comprehensive case development from premature disclosure. Professional guidance ensured that family assistance aligned with investigation objectives while supporting evidence preservation activities and legal strategy development that would maximize prospects for successful outcomes. The medical appointments that David monitored for signs of cognitive improvement actually concealed sophisticated investigation operations that were systematically dismantling his criminal enterprise while building comprehensive evidence for legal action. The chemotherapy treatments that he believed rendered Rebecca incapable of complex analytical thinking provided optimal opportunities for coordinating with federal investigators and international asset recovery specialists without risk of detection. Recovery planning activities involved developing comprehensive strategies for complete asset recovery, while coordinating with law enforcement agencies to ensure criminal prosecution of sophisticated financial crimes. Professional networks within federal law enforcement provided access to specialized resources and investigative expertise that would be essential for successful prosecution and recovery of stolen assets through coordinated domestic and international legal mechanisms. The investigative excellence that Rebecca was demonstrating during her apparent medical vulnerability established new standards for applying professional competence to personal crisis situations. Her methodical approach to evidence development was creating foundations for complete triumph over calculated betrayal while establishing precedents for protecting vulnerable individuals from systematic financial crimes that exploit medical crisis and trusted relationship dynamics. Technology security protocols were continuously refined to maintain operational security while coordinating with expanding networks of professional investigators and legal specialists. Federal law enforcement training provided frameworks for managing complex investigations while ensuring that evidence development activities met the highest standards for successful prosecution and complete asset recovery through appropriate judicial mechanisms. Professional development activities that Rebecca pursued during her medical treatment period actually enhanced her investigative capabilities beyond previous federal service achievements, while demonstrating how challenging circumstances could strengthen rather than diminish specialized expertise when approached with systematic methodology and strategic thinking. Her performance during apparent medical incapacitation exceeded her previous professional accomplishments while establishing new benchmarks for forensic accounting excellence. Evidence analysis procedures had progressed to include comprehensive correlation of David's theft operations with his business activities and international travel patterns. This detailed analysis revealed systematic coordination with offshore accomplices, while documenting precise methodologies employed for asset appropriation during periods of documented medical incapacitation and apparent cognitive impairment that provided legal justification for financial management authority. Corporate intelligence analysis revealed additional criminal operations that extended beyond theft of marital assets to include systematic fraud schemes that targeted multiple victims through exploitation of medical vulnerabilities and trusted relationship dynamics. Professional expertise in complex financial crime investigation enabled comprehensive mapping of criminal networks while developing strategic approaches for dismantling sophisticated theft operations and ensuring appropriate legal consequences for all participants. The foundation of investigative excellence that Rebecca was establishing through systematic application of professional expertise demonstrated how specialized training could overcome even the most sophisticated forms of financial exploitation. Her disciplined approach to case development was creating comprehensive bases for complete vindication, while inspiring others to recognize the transformative power of professional competence applied with unwavering determination and strategic precision. Banking forensics analysis had revealed additional evidence of David's systematic coordination with international money laundering specialists who provided services that facilitated asset concealment while creating defensive barriers against legal enforcement. Professional expertise in international financial crime investigation enabled identification of criminal networks while developing comprehensive strategies for asset recovery and prosecution that would ensure maximum legal consequences for all participants. Legal documentation preparation involved establishing comprehensive foundations for both civil and criminal actions that would ensure complete asset recovery while creating appropriate consequences for systematic exploitation of medical vulnerability. Coordination with federal prosecutors provided strategic frameworks for developing prosecution strategies that would overcome defensive arrangements while establishing precedents for protecting vulnerable individuals from sophisticated financial crimes. The transformative impact of professional excellence applied to personal crisis was demonstrated through Rebecca's systematic development of comprehensive legal action that would ensure complete asset recovery while creating maximum consequences for calculated exploitation of medical vulnerability. Her methodical investigation was establishing new standards for protecting vulnerable individuals while inspiring others to recognize the profound power of specialized competence applied with strategic determination. International coordination. Activities had expanded to include asset recovery specialists in multiple jurisdictions who possessed technical capabilities for penetrating offshore defensive arrangements while ensuring successful recovery of systematically appropriated funds. These professional relationships provided access to legal resources and investigative expertise that would be essential for overcoming international barriers to comprehensive asset recovery and criminal prosecution. The systematic nature of Rebecca's investigative response to David's calculated betrayal was establishing comprehensive foundations for legal action that would demonstrate the transformative power of professional expertise applied to personal crisis situations. Her methodical approach to evidence development was creating the basis for complete asset recovery, while ensuring that sophisticated financial crimes would face maximum legal consequences regardless of vulnerability exploitation that enabled their initial success. Professional consultation activities continued expanding to include specialized investigators with expertise in complex fraud prosecution and international asset recovery operations. These professional relationships provided access to technical capabilities and legal resources that would be essential for successful prosecution and complete recovery of systematically appropriated assets through coordinated domestic and international legal mechanisms. The emergence of investigative excellence during Rebecca's apparent medical vulnerability illustrated the profound impact of professional competence applied with strategic precision to overcome sophisticated criminal operations. Her systematic approach to investigation and evidence development was creating comprehensive foundations for complete vindication while establishing precedents for applying forensic accounting expertise to complex personal crisis situations involving systematic financial exploitation and medical vulnerability abuse. Up next, you've got two more